on what Chazal tell us you meant. And so, what we saw yesterday was if you're going to say I'm going to bring eitzim, I'm going to bring wood, so that means a certain specific type of wood. If you're going to bring gold, that means a certain type, etc. So now we're talking about what if a person says lavona. So person said, I'm going to take an eder, it's upon me to bring a lavona offering, an incense offering, which you can do. Lavona lo yivchos min hakometz. So what's the shear you owe? You owe a komet. Minal. And how do we know this? Dichsiv. Because it's written in Vayikra. V'hirim meno b'kmutzu mesolot hamincha u'mishamna et kol halavona. You shall separate from it its kometz, some of the fine flour of the mincha, and some of its oil, and all the lavona. And then it says, parentheses, that is on the mincha. Makish lavona laharama de mincha. So we see the pasuk compares lavona to mincha. So ma harama de mincha kometz, af lavona nami kometz. Just as the when you separate a mincha, the size is a kometz. So too lavona. So we see there's a little bit of a hekesh in the pasuk.
So is the emphasis on the specificity on the quantity or the quality, or both?
Right now, it's the quantity. What we're saying is, you just made a general statement. I'm going to bring spice. So you're going to bring, 1 kernel, 10 kernels. How much are you going to bring? So we have to know what people mean when they say that. So what we're saying is, the person means a fistful, because we know there's a relationship between the Torah tells us a relationship between the lavona and the mincha, and we know a mincha is done with a fistful when you separate. So when you separate it, if you're offering this korban nadava of a lavona, it must be that you meant a fistful as well. Okay, Tana Rabbanan, Harei alai l'mizbeach. So what if, now just relating to this lavona concept, we're going to say, what if someone says, I'm making an eder for the mizbeach. I'm bringing an offering to I'm making an eder the mizbeach. So what does that mean? It's such a general statement. So the Gemara tells us that means yavi lavona. He has to bring lavona. Why? She'ein lecha davar shekarav lagav mizbeach el lavona. Why? Because if a person says, I'm bringing something to the altar, how do we know it's lavona? Because there's nothing that is completely extinguished upon or burnt on the mizbeach like a lavona. It's the only thing that's completely or consumed completely. We're going to see that's not. There are other items that are also consumed, somewhat completely. So we'll deal with that. But the idea is, you made a general statement. I'm making an eder to the mizbeach. What does that mean? It really means you have to bring lavona. Pereshti ve'en yodei ma pereshti. Person says, I know I specified something that's fully consumed upon the altar, but I don't remember which item that is fully consumed upon the altar. Yavi mikol davar shekar. So I have to bring all the items that are fully consumed. A little bit of a contradiction, right? Because the first piece said this is the only thing you meant, and then we said there's other things. So what it really means is there's one that's mostly referred to as fully consumed, but there are other items that are also mostly consumed. So the suleka, is there really nothing else that's fully consumed upon the mizbeach? So if I made the general statement, it's upon me a neder to make an offering to the altar, that it automatically means lavona? What do you mean? There's other things that are fully consumed on the mizbeach. What's an example? V'ha'ika ola, right? We know an ola offering, it's fully consumed. The kohen doesn't eat the meat, the person doesn't eat the meat, fully consumed. No, it's not really. Why? Because ika ora lekohanim. Because we know that you fillet it. First you take off the skin. Off the skin. That goes to the kohen, and you burn everything else. So it's not as fully consumed as the lavona, which is entirely consumed. Okay, fine. So ola is not a kasha, but vaha ika ola sa'ov. What about the bird? A bird is completely burned. Not really. Ika mora v'notza. No, it's mura. It's innards v'notza, and it's feathers. The article translates mura as crop. I didn't know what a crop was. I looked it up. A crop it kind of looks like a goiter. It's in a large esophagus, it says. So that part and the feathers you take off. So even though it's theoretically fully consumed as much as the meat is, there are these components which I guess are disgusting to the mizbeach, so it's not burned. So it's not as entirely consumed as the lavona. What about what we learned yesterday? But we know the wine, it's fully poured on, right? Lishtin azle. No, it's not actually brought on the pyre. It's not brought where you burn stuff. It's poured into those funnels, into those the pipes, which are on the bottom. So it's not. So when a person says, "I'm making an offering to the altar," using this general statement, he's not really referring to wine because he's probably referring to something that's burned. or in the position where it would be burnt. V'hayika mincha nesachim. What about the mincha nesachim, right? We learned this all the past few days. The voluntary mincha offering, the flour itself is fully burnt. So that is truly all burnt. So what's the Gemara's answer to that? Keven de'ika mincha da'achle kohanim mina lo psikela. So this is kind of interesting. Even though it really is fully burnt, since the whole parsha of minchas, meaning all minchas in general, are generally eaten, so even though this particular mincha is fully burnt, if a person would just use the generic statement of mizbeach, he really wouldn't be referring to the korban mincha, since generally what a person thinks of mincha as being something that's consumed. So I think what's interesting there, you think that at first glance, it is fully consumed. So the point is, this goes back to what I've always been saying the past few days, which is that it's really based on how people spoke. So even though it is truly fully consumed, the bottom line is what the Gemara is telling you, since generally minchas you think about as something that is eaten, you wouldn't use it as a lashon of something that's fully consumed, even though there is one example. Okay. Next case of the Mishnah. Harei alai zahav lo yivchos medinar zahav. What do we say in the Mishnah? You make the general statement, I'm taking an neder that I have to bring I'm donating gold to the Beta Kabayas. So I have to bring, what does that mean? Chazal tell us that means a dinar worth of gold. That's the minimum threshold you have to then bring to honor that neder. V'dilma naska. What do you mean? Maybe it should be a bar of gold. Why? What's the idea here? We've been saying all these things in our Mishnah are talking about minimum thresholds, right? Asim, it's 2 logs. Gold, it's a dinar. We on our commentary, we spoke it out yesterday. We said, well, because that's kind of like the minimum amount people would use of gold. So if you're talking about minimal amounts, at least this is the way Rashi understands it, that not Rashi, Tosos. The way Tosos said that the gold bar is lesser than the dinar. So if a person said, and that is a used component, meaning they would use gold bars. So maybe if he said just generically gold, the minimum amount should be a bar, not the dinar. So Amar Lazar to Amar Mapeya. No, he specifically mentioned he's dealing with a coin. So if he's dealing with a coin, so it has to be a dinar. V'dilma prite. We know there's a smaller coin called a pruta. Amar Papa prite dahava lo avdei inshe. No, people don't normally. It wasn't common to have those type of coins in circulation. So if a person was referring to the gold coin he's going to donate, he wasn't talking about the rare gold coin, even though it was cheaper. Same idea with silver. Kasef lo. Yeah, the dinar is worth more than the bar. So it sounds like.
Isn't it by weight?
Right. Right. Well, I guess maybe the bar was a smaller amount.
Smaller than a coin? It's like a Hershey bar, a little mini Hershey bar?
I guess so. It could have been like a pin.
I guess so.
Could have been like a pin. Okay, kasef, or maybe there was a value in having currency. Who knows? Kasef lo yivchos medinar. A person made a vow to bring silver. So what did the Mishnah tell us? It says you can't bring less than a dinar. V'dilma naska. Same idea. Maybe he meant the bar. Amar Lazar to Amar Mapeya. No, he specifically said it was a coin. V'dilma prite. So maybe he meant the less valuable coin. Amar of Sheshas ba'atra de losagi priti de kaspa. No, we're dealing with that would be an uncommon coin. So even though it's cheaper, the minimum is really a dinar. The choshes lo yivchos b'ma kasaf. And if a person made an neder, said, I'm going to donate copper, he can't bring less than a ma'ah of kasaf. So here it's a financial amount. So Tanya, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Amar lo yivchos mitzinora katana shel nechoshes. No, he says something different. He says he can't bring less than a small copper fork. So Rashi tells us this is the type. What you use a tiny little copper fork for? He says it was used for the menorah lamp. To basically mess with the oil and the wick while it was still lit. You needed something very small to stick in, and it sounds like, I think it's not 100% clear whether he's arguing or not, or just complimenting the idea of one's a financial amount, one's a kli, but potentially he's arguing, and potentially this would be a smaller amount of copper, but because there is a use, it would be acceptable. But I think it probably also has to do with, when people refer to, like we've been saying, what's the smallest amount of copper that could be either used or bartered with, and so it was a small little copper fork. But potentially he's arguing on our Mishnah. Okay, Lamai Chazia, what would you do for this? Amar Bai Shemechatitim ba petilos umekanchen ba neros. Like I said, I gave the punchline early. They trimmed the wicks and they cleaned out the lamps with it. Okay, well, this was not mentioned in our Mishnah, but the Gemara is going to talk about it anyway. Bar, so what if I said I'm going to donate iron to the Beit HaKabayas? Tanya, acherimrim lo yifchos mikalya orev. He can't give less than this crow chaser. The kama Amar Rav Yosef Ama. How much was this? Crow chaser, or we call a scarecrow? It was an ama by an ama. Ikita amri lo yivchos ma'ama al ama l'maychaz. What was it used for? Meaning, if you give a medal, you have to give an ama by ama piece. Amar Rav Yosef l'kalya orev. Same idea, meaning an amount that would create this scarecrow. And then there's just a couple of different commentaries as to what this scarecrow or crow chaser really is. Rashi tells us it's a metal spike that they put on the roof of the base of Mikdash. So in order that birds shouldn't be able to sit on it and then soil it would be like disgusting towards the base of Mikdash. There's another commentary that says no, it's not really a spike. It's like we're saying, it's a scarecrow. So like make a scary object to keep the birds away. And one of the commentators point out that this is really only talking about the second base of Mikdash, because there's no way the first base of Mikdash would have birds on it, because there was so much Kedusha there, and we know there were all these miracles, that there's no way birds would be going on top. Yeah.
Like today it's full of birds.
Yeah. Well, I think right. So, but the second base of Mikdash had less Kedusha, so Kal V'chomer when there's no base of Mikdash. I will just say, just because you brought that up, though, something very interesting I heard this morning, which I never heard before. Reb Razna brought down in the name of Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky that why is it that we would say the first base of Mikdash had so much more Kedusha than the second base of Mikdash, and how does that really work? And he says that basically Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky explains that really the first base of Mikdash was the real base of Mikdash. The second base of Mikdash, really there's not such a strong idea of that it had the same type of sanctity, and it really wasn't like a paradigmatic experience. It wasn't an ideal. Really, the first base of Mikdash was very legit, and the third base of Mikdash was very legit. But because there would be such a long gullus, that Hashem kind of took Rachim and created this intermediary solution to have the second base of Mikdash. But you see, it wasn't really the real base of Mikdash in that A, everyone didn't come back, and B, you didn't have all these miracles, and there were many different differences. Although, maybe if everyone had come back, maybe it would have been. So, but it is just interesting to note that there is it's not just a chiluk in that the miracles that occurred. He's saying that the distinction is based on the inherent kedusha of it. Okay, which is comforting to me because you read about the second base of Mikdash, all this bad stuff ended up happening, and it wasn't that great an experience. So it's good to know the third base of Mikdash will hopefully be more like the first. Okay, moving on to the next Mishnah of general statements of Nadarim as relates to offering and how we would interpret it and what the consequences are on it. I would just say, just on kind of what you guys were talking about before we started this year, the main idea you'll see, because we're going to get into some kind of large consequences, is if you make a neder, write it down. So then you know. Harei alai yayin. I make a neder that I'm going to donate yayin. Lo yivchos m'shlosh lugin. So what's the shear that I have to do? You can't do less than 3 lugin. Shemen lo yivchos melog. How much of shemen? It's not less than a log. That's the minimum increment. Rabbi Omer shlosha lugin. Rabbi argues on the Tana comment, says oil also has to be shlosha lugin, just like the wine. Perashti v'eni yodea ma perashti. I know I specified an amount of oil, or I know I specified an amount of wine. I just don't remember what it was. Yavi kiyom meruba. Bring the equivalent of the day where they had the most usage in the Beis Hamikdash of wine or oil. Not dissimilar than when we saw that comment as relates to the maximum amount of menachos you would have to be obligated to bring. And we said similar idea the day they brought the most karbanos. Okay. So on this Mishnah, Tana Rabbanan, Ezrach. So the Gemara wants to understand how do we know that you can bring a wine as a voluntary offering? We said the past couple days we were learning Gemaras where obviously you can include it, but we took it for granted. It's learnt out from Pesukim. Where is it learnt out? If you go to Parshas Bamidbar, the Perek Tetvav, the first 12 psukim are basically talking about all the different wine libations you would bring with the various offerings. And then it says, a pasuk, I'll just read it inside because it becomes clear to me then. Every native shall do so with them to bring a fire offering, a satisfying aroma to Hashem. So this is coming after 12 straight psukim of talking about wine offerings. So what's it coming to add? It just gave us all the directive that you're supposed to do it. So the Gemara is teaching us this whole pasuk of Ezra, melamed shemiznat navi yain, that it's showing that you can also do it in a voluntary fashion. This pasuk is superfluous because we just had 12 psukim that's teaching us all these wine offerings you bring for mandatory offerings. So how do you know you can do it voluntarily? This extra pasuk. The kama shlosh lugim, and what's the amount according to this Bryce and according to everyone actually with wine? Shlosh lugim, 3 lugim. Umenayin she'im ratza lahosif Yosef. And how do we know if he wants he can do more than 3 lugim? Tamalomer yihiyeh, that it says 2 psukim later in this parsha of Nesachim. It says Hakahal chuka achas lachem lager chukas olam ladoras kachem kager yeh lifnei Hashem. For the congregation, the same decree shall be for you, and for proselytes who sojourns, and eternal decree for your judges, like the proselyte shall be before Hashem. So, Lomar Yihiyah, it shall be. They tell us that Yachol, the fact that it says Yihiyah, it shall be. What does it mean? Shall be. It's extra. So that teaches you can even do more wine than just the 3 lugin. Yachol Yivchos. How do you know less? Tamalomar Kacha. It says kacha, so, which is or thus, which kind of means this exact amount. That's going back to the pasuk of Yud Gimel. That word comes to limit it to 3. But just what the Gemara didn't speak out is, why is 3 the minimum amount to begin with? Because in this whole passage of libations, 3 was the least amount ever brought with a mandatory wine offering. So we're always going to parallel the voluntary offerings off of the mandatory offerings. No different with the saron of the mincha, because the least amount is 1. Okay. Shaman lo yivchos min alog, Rabbi Meir shlosh login. So the wine, everyone agrees to that the minimum amount is 3, but oil, we saw there is a machlokas that the Tanna Kama says it's 1. Oil. The Tanna Kama says 1, and Rabbi says it's 3. But my kamifli, why are they arguing? Amru Rabbanan Kamei Papa Bedun Minei Umna. They're arguing on this concept of Bedun Minei Umna, derived from it and from it. Bedun Minei V'ukim Basra. Or derived from its place and then derived in its context, kamifli. What does this mean? Which before we dig into it. Basically, when you learn something from either a Hakesh or a Gezer Shava, how much are you learning from it? Are you learning that what you're learning from? Do you say, okay, that whole Torah, all those laws now get applied to this new item? Or do you say, we look at it in context, we learn some of the things from this, but we don't learn all of the things from this. So how does this relate to oil? So oil, we're going to see, is learned from wine. So do we learn everything like wine? So just as wine is 3 lugin? Or do we learn some of the things from wine? We know you could do it voluntarily just as you could do wine, but maybe the amount is not learned from wine. And where would you then learn the amount of oil from? You would learn it from menachos, where the oil, where it's taught that you can bring a voluntary offering with oil.
But you can't pull 2 from 2 different places.
Well, that's kind of the question. Right. Meaning, one opinion holds you can. Meaning, you should learn some from this, and then some really related to what the makor of oil is. Meaning, go learn oil from wine, some of wine, because that's where you learn, you know some of it. But then the bulk of it, learn to the parshas of oil. It's not exactly the same thing as oil, as wine. And some say, no, once you're learning from wine, the whole Torah of wine gets applied to oil. We'll speak it out. You'll see, we'll go through the Gemara. But that's basically this idea of din mina v'okim ba'asra versus din mina umina. Okay, Rabbanan Savre, din mina umina. We darshan from it and completely from it. And that's why we say 1. So what's their drasha? Ma mincha misnadavin af shemen nami misnadavin. Just as a mincha is voluntary one, so too oil would also be one. Umina, and then continue to derive from it. Ma mincha belog, just as a mincha is a log, af shemen belog, so too an oil is log. So they learn the drasha of oil from mincha. Rabbi Savar dimina v'uki ba'asra. No, you derive some of it from mincha, but you don't derive the whole entire thing from it. Ma mincha misdavin af shemen na misdavin. Just as a mincha you could bring a voluntary offering, so too oil you can bring a voluntary offering. However, v'uki ba'asra, but then learn about it, what's relatable to it. It's a liquid that you pour. Kinesachim, similar to wine. Ma nesachim shlosh lugim af shemen nami shlosh lugim. It's something you pour on the mizbeach. So we say we learn it from mincha. So Chacham say learn it from mincha all the way through. Just as you're learning it initially from mincha, so also learn. Just as a mincha, it's the minimum amount is one log of oil, right, with one isaron or one mincha offering. So too, even by oil, we don't care the fact that it's similar to wine and you're pouring it. And Rabbi says no. Learn the idea from mincha that you can bring a voluntary offering of it, but learn from wine that it's a liquid. You're pouring it on the altar, and you can do 3 lugin. So Amr Lahu Rav Papa, even mincha Gemara LaRebbe. The Kuliyama lo pluggy. If you're really learning it from mincha, maybe it's true, and then really no one would argue about this, even Rebbe. Din mina, and he would also agree, we'll learn it from mincha all the way through. El Rebbe me Izrach Gemarle. Rather, but Rebbe doesn't actually learn it from mincha. You're making the premise of your argument saying you're having a machlokas in din mina, or don't say din mina, is premised on the fact that they both learn it from mincha, and then how much of mincha to apply to. I'm telling you, Rebbe doesn't even learn it from mincha at all. Why? He learns it from this pasuk which we just quoted above of Ezrach, where we know there's 12 psukim relating to mandatory libations, and there's a whole extra pasuk. So he's not just learning the wine offering that you can do voluntarily. He also learns from there that you can bring an oil offering voluntarily. So, and then so the Gemara wants to say, so don't tell me it's a machlokas in dimina umina. Amar le Rav Huna leBreid Rav Nasan Rav Papa umi matzit amr hachi. Are you really telling me that Rebbe's learning that you can bring a voluntary oil offering from this pasuk of Ezrach v'hatanya korban? But we know there's a brayse that says, we saw this pasuk yesterday, where they're going to use it for a different teaching. V'hatanya korban. When it says in regarding mincha offering at the beginning, it uses the word a korban mincha, right, which is double lashon. Even though it says mincha, we know it's superfluous. So melamed shemistav sheben. It comes to teach us that you can do a voluntary oil offering. V'kama shloshes lugan, 3 lugan. Man shmai to amr shloshin. Who is the opinion that holds 3 lugan of oil? Rabbi. V'kama silai mekorban. So we see that Rabbi actually learns that you can bring a voluntary oil offering not from the pasuk of Ezra, rather it's from korban.
So we learn korban from wood and oil.
So that's what I was thinking, right? So either A, you learn korban from wood and oil, or B, Rabbi doesn't hold to that drasha of korban teaching you wood. Maybe you learned it somewhere else, or maybe you wouldn't. We know he definitely holds you can bring wood because he holds you can bring it in the most extreme fashion, right? You put the salt in it, you do the kamitza. So either he learns both from it, or he learns wood from somewhere else. But either way, you can't say that's the interpretation of Rebbe. So Amrlei, Tanya. Fine, you're right. Really, they have a machlokas in a machlokas in dim mina umina, and they have 2 different opinions. Rebbe holds you don't have to learn from the full context all the way through. So just because you learn it from menachos in one regard doesn't mean you have to learn it menachos in all regards. And the Rabbanan holds you do have to learn it all the way through. Okay, last case of the Mishnah. Peirashti ve'eno dea ma peirashti. I know I specified some amount of oil or wine. I just don't know exactly what the amount was, but I know it wasn't 1. So the Mishnah tells us the amount you have to bring is the most they ever brought on one single day. Tana kiyom tov harishon shelcha shechaletz b'Shabbos. So same answer we actually said relates to menachos. what was the most communal offerings brought in one day? It was Shabbos, first day of Sukkot, because all the bull offerings and the Shabbos offerings, and it ends up being 140 lugin. They have the whole math below of
How much is that?
how much is 140 lugin? Not sure.
6 eggs. How much? One
So-
lugan is 6 eggs.
So then 140 times 6, I guess.
Synagogue.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So, but what's interesting is it's not actually obviously the day they brought the most karbanos. The day they brought the most karbanos was Erev Pesach. It was Erev Pesach when they brought the korban, because every single person was bringing a korban that day, or grouping together to bring a korban. But this was the most communal korbans on the Chag, and we learned out, and we learned out the voluntary offerings of the mincha and the oil and the wine from the mandatory offerings. And I guess they don't want to say mandatory as the number of yachid, because it's an indeterminate amount. But the tzibor, it's a fixed amount. Okay. Next Mishnah. Haray alai ola. Right. So I made an eder. I'm going to bring an ola. So this is not a case of I forgot. Rather, he's just saying I'm taking an eder to bring an ola. So he doesn't get to then qualify what type of ola. So Yavi kevish. So Chazal tell us he has to bring a kevish. Well, he has to minimally bring a kevish. Why? Because when a person says I'm bringing an ola, it means I'm willing to bring the minimal amount. I mean, I guess he could bring a more expensive one, but all he has to bring is a kevish. You don't say he has to then go bring the most expensive one. The lamb is the cheapest one, according to the Tanna Kama. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah.
Later on, specify what he's going to bring. Like, he didn't finish his sentence. It's like, I'm going to give some charity.
Right.
And later on, you tell him what the donation amount is going to be.
Right. So I think the point is that we're not sticking him with the higher amount. We're saying, Hare Ola, so you could bring an Ola from any of the male animals. So he's entitled to bring the cheapest one. You don't automatically say he has to bring the most expensive one. Right? Like, bear in mind the conversation we were having yesterday, which was the idea of, if there is a side to say it really is, if you have a suffix, then you always have to go up to the max to go to,
Right,
for Hagdish. But it's not a suffix, right? Exactly. So he's just declaring I'm bringing an Ola. So I guess what you're alluding to is, why does the Mishnah have to tell us a kevis? Obviously you could bring it. But the point is, maybe you would have to think you have to bring, the medium value, the most expensive. So, or maybe what was most normatively brought, the most normative Ola. So we're saying you can bring the minimal one, which is a lamb. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Omer, Otor, O ben Yonah. No, you can bring a dove or a pigeon. You can bring a bird, and we're going to see later on the Gemara is going to discuss whether they're arguing or whether they just come at it from two different perspectives. Perashti mina bakar ve'eni yodea ma perashti. I know I said I'm going to dedicate cattle. I just don't remember what type. Adult, an adult cow, a baby cow. So Yavi par ve'egel. So he brings both a par and an egel. He brings a grown-up cow and a baby cow, right? Because here's the situation: is there's a suffix, there's a doubt, so you didn't write it down, so you have to bring both. Min habehema ve'enodim ma parashti. I said I know I'm going to bring an animal. I just don't know which one I specified. All for an ola, so we're only dealing with males. Yavi par ve'egel, ayil sa'ir gedi v'teleh. Right? You have to bring a male and female cow, and a male and female ram, a male and female sheep, and male and female goats. They didn't go in order in the last four for some reason. Pirashti v'enadei ma pirashti. I specified, but I don't remember what I specified. So, right? I said I'm going to bring a korban. I said I specified a type of ola. I just don't remember what type of ola. So you have to bring all 6 of those, and most of Elaine Tor or Ben Yonah. You didn't even know it was an animal, so it might have been a bird. So you have to bring all 8. Hare alai todo shlamim. So now I take a neder that I said I'm going to bring a korban toda and a shlamim. Toda and shlamim, it's not just like a ola, which is male. It can be male or female. So Yavi keves. So he gets to bring a lamb. It's lav dafka lamb. It could also be a female lamb. So he can bring the minimal amount. Same idea. Perashti min bakar. I know I specified for the Told and Shlamim It was bakar, it was cattle. Ve'eno dia ma parash. I just don't remember which type. So yavi par, he has to bring a male and female, egel v'agla, and a male and female baby. Min behema, I know it was an animal. Ve'eno dia ma parashti. So yavi par para, egel v'egla, male and female baby, ayel v'rachla, a ram and a ewe, seira, gediu gdaya, tlaya. He has to bring all 8. Hare alai, sure. Okay, so a person takes an eder and says, I'm taking an eder to bring a shore. Yavihu unisacha b'mana. So now the Mishnah is telling us, if I took an eder to bring a shore, I have to bring a shore, and it's nisachim that are worth a mana. So what are we learning here? We're learning there's a minimal value to the item you're bringing, right? There's different types of bulls. There's 500-pound ones and 700-pound ones, and there's probably different costs to them. So what the Mishnah is telling you is the value of that bull is 100 dinars, including the 100 dinars that will cover both the bull and the nesachim, the flour that you have to bring with it, and the wine you have to bring with it. Where does the Mishnah know these amounts? So it's a machlokas. Rashi says it's Moshe Sinai, and that works very well because we're no longer talking minimal amounts. The Rambam says it was the medium, it was the average. This was the average amount, so that's the way people spoke. So it works very well in terms of that's the way people spoke. However, what doesn't work so well about that, which is a question, is we've been talking minimal amounts. This is not a minimal amount. So if you understand Moshe Sinai, fine, so it's not a minimal amount. But according to the Rambam, who understands that it was the normative amount, it's no longer the minimum. So there's pros and cons to both approaches. But either way, you have to. So if a person just says I'm bringing an ox, he has to bring the value of 100 dinars or a mana, inclusive of the nesachim. Ego yavi hu nechasa b'chamesh. If I said I'm going to bring a baby cow, so it has to be a cow worth 5 slum, including its nesachim. Ayel. If I said I took an ed, I'm going to bring an ayel. I'm going to bring a ram. Yavihu nesacha b'shayim. It and its nesachim worth 2 total. Keves yavihu nesacha b'sela. A lamb, he only has to bring a sela's worth, including it and its nesachim. Okay, but now shore b'mana. I took a net that said I'm going to bring a shore worth 100. Yavi b'mana chutz menesacha. So that when you say it, you actually have to bring a shore worth 100, but it does not include the nesachim. So then you have to probably spend 101. You get a bull worth 100, and then go out and spend 1 on your mincha and your wine. Ego b'chamesh, yavi b'chamesh chutz menechasav. Same idea. When you say the amount, it's only going on the animal, not its nesachim. Ayel b'shtayim, yavi b'shtayim chutz menechasav. Kaves b'sala, yavi b'sala chutz menechasav. Now, next case. Shor b'mana v'hevi shnayim b'mana. What if I made a neder? I said I'm going to bring a shore worth a mana, which is worth 100 dinar, v'hevi shnayim b'mana, and I bring two shores that equal 100. Is that good? Right? I said I'm going to bring an animal worth 100, and I ended up saying, can I bring 250s instead? Lo yatsa. It doesn't work. Why? Because you're not honoring what you said. Even if the 2 animals are worth 99 each, so I'm bringing a total of 198, and I only made an edit for 100, but because it's 2 separate animals, neither of which equal 100, no dice. Shchor v'havi lavan. I said I'm going to bring a black bull, and I brought a white. Or I said lavan v'havi shachor. I said I'm going to bring a white, and I brought a black. Gadol v'havi katan. Or I said I'm going to bring a large bull. I'm not sure how they classify that, but or maybe a grown-up. V'havi katan, and I brought an eagle, and I brought a baby. Lo yatsa. Doesn't work. However, we quoted this yesterday. Katan v'havi gadol yotzei. However, if I said I'm going to bring a small ox, and I brought a big one, I am yotzei. Why? Because I'm more. Rabbi Amar liotza, right? Like we quoted this yesterday. Rabbi argues. He said, no, you did not honor that which you said, so no dice. Doesn't work. Rabbi holds, you got to write it all down. Okay, velo pligi. So now what is this going on? Going to the Gemara. The first case of the Mishnah, what do we say? We said, Harei alai ola. A person says, I'm gonna donate an ola, yavi, keves. He brings a lamb. And then the next opinion, Rav Elazar ben Azari said, no, bring a tor or a benyon, or bring a bird. You could bring a bird. So they're not arguing, the Gemara is teaching us why. Mar ki asrei, umar ki asrei. In this person's locale, lambs were cheaper. In this person's locale, birds were cheaper. So they both were saying you could do the minimum ola amount. They just had a different reference point. What's the question here? Where did everyone bring their korban ola? To Yerushalayim. So how did they have a different reference point? Azariah's reference point, birds were cheap, and you can buy and bring.
Because he actually, in order to buy the animal in Yerushalayim, he had to sell the animal first where he was and got the value for it, right?
Well, that's Meiser Sheni, I think, right? That's Meiser Sheni. I think you can consecrate an animal, bring it.
So they had like a current. It was like going to exchange money. They had a value chart depending on which.
Yeah. There was if you go in Israel, you go on the they have the by the tours. You have there's that area where you could see where they used to have the changers between they would sell goats and give you money, and they had the little booths. Okay.
There's no train.
Right.
3-4 days sometimes.
Right, it's not so practical, and there's issues of things you can and can't do with a hagdish animal.
Yeah.
So it's not so practical. Yeah. But I don't think it's an issue.
I'm going to bring this lamb. You could bring this lamb.
Right. But also bear in mind, in our circumstances, we're saying harei alai. I have an editor to do it, so you're not obligating this item.
Yeah.
Okay. Tana Rabbanan. Harei alai ola b'sela l'mizbeach. I'm going to bring an ola worth of sela to the mizbeach. Yavi keves. So he has to bring a lamb. She'ein lecha davar shekar b'sela l'gad mizbeach ala keves. Because there's nothing that he's referring to when a person's saying I'm bringing an ola worth of sela to the mizbeach. I am referring to a ram. So I am referring to a lamb. So you have to bring a lamb because that's what a person's referring to when he says that. Pirashti ve'eno diya ma pirashti. I know I specified some type of item that's worth a sela to bring as a korban ola to the mizbeach. I just don't remember which item. So it's not that I said this general statement which would refer to a lamb. I know I specified one of the items which generally cost a sela. I just don't remember which one. So yavi mikol davar shakar v'sela l'gabiveh. So he has to bring all the items that you can bring on a mizbeach as an ola, which would be a sela. So what are those items? It's also inclusive of a wine and a mincha. Or maybe at the bottom that would include a mincha or lavona. Okay. Pirashti min habakar ve'eno di'amama pirashti yavi par ve'egel. I specific. Oh, so he has to bring both yavi par ve'egel. What's the problem there? V'liyase par manashach. So you said I said I'm going to bring is this part of the Mishnah? Rabbi he. The Amar katan v'havi gadol lo yatzai. So he holds. So Rabbi ema seifa shor b'mana v'hevi shnayim b'mana lo yatzai v'afil is black and I brought a white lav v'hevi shachar gadol v'hevi katan lo yatzai katan v'hevi gadol yatza Rabbi Amar lo yatza. So Reisha. Now you're basically saying the Reisha is Rabbi, the middle is Rabbani. V'achkamar davar zeh machlokas Rabbi Rabbanan. So why did they set up the Mishnah? Why possibly would they done it in such a confused? Like sometimes, obviously, ideally you want the Mishnah to be one author completely, but if that's not going to happen, maybe to have the top be one and the bottom be another. To have the top be one, the middle be his disputants, and the bottom be another. Why would you do that? So what they're saying is the top was Rebbe, and then the middle is the Rabbanim, which says, you can be Yotze with a bigger one for a smaller one, but then the bottom, you're once again bringing in Rebbe to show that this whole thing is machlokas, and that's why we brought out the top one as someone as arguing to begin with. We'll conclude with that.
יתברך וישבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא את הדם, את הלב, את הלול, שבי קדושה, בריחו, אלא ממקו בחטא ושירת.
The next day. Flash out. Thank you very much. Great. We'll do my bail Tuesday. Thank you so much.